but they were
I get them mixed up in
they saved money on the
Just what made me think of it was
Call me Maggie.
fees on here.
Since you're up, you run down to Grant's office and make sure that Andrew's ready to start recording?
Oh yeah. We want volume this time, right?
Yep. Audio and video would be nice. Going at the same time would be nice.
Am I correct? We were just talking about the fees for the sports leagues.
The fields, the rental for the fields, yeah.
Am I correct in assuming that we paid for the chalk and some of the other costs?
No.
No. So they're just paying the usage fee.
We don't do any of the striping of the fields or anything. They do that, but they're paying for the fields to be used.
Okay. I was under the impression that we were paying for the chalking.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I can certainly look at it.
There were just so many different things at that time, and I saw on the agenda, I was like, whatever, we visited that, and then we kind of just stepped back, because it was a big impact to the teams, and
So
then.
they are being assessed fees for this upcoming year. They understand and appreciate that, the need for that, but they've been getting it for free for a long time.
But we didn't, it's this coming up year, not.
Yeah. Okay. Dana is the person, she's gone for the day, but Dana's the one that we could ask about what they get other than the usage of the fields, which is the fees go to pay for the maintenance and keep of the field. But
Yeah.
I've never heard of our guys going out and chalking the fields.
I couldn't remember where we went.
I thought that was I thought that was something we were discussing, chalking and then upgrade the secure, making those the sheds secure.
Now that would be on us. Make sure the bathrooms were good. I'll look. Wow. You already been to cash and carry?
He's getting that
A little
early.
bit better in cash and carry.
Yeah. I'll be all over.
Where is that? Gold Farm?
Kids.
Oh, it's heads. I thought there were keys. Stolen from Mr. Doug's. Oh, you changed that one. Thanks, guys. Well, it's 6 o'clock. Cody, did you confirm that
We are good to go. And we have volume this time.
All right, so welcome to the study session of October 1st, and welcome to October, for that matter. There, that happened. A reminder to folks, this is a study session. The City Council talks about things that might be coming up for decisions, but we don't make decisions as a body at the study session. We are recording. The camera is this round thing up here, and it's unidirectional, so it's always looking at everybody, and the voice is omnidirectional. And I think I said the wrong word the first time. Omnidirectional, meaning that everybody's voices are being picked up at all times. So even if you turn and whisper to somebody, it's probably going to pick you up and come back to haunt you at some other point. Somebody does a public records request, yeah. How softly can I talk? That's that one. And other than that, it's an informal setting, so we don't do our Pledge of Allegiance and so forth. We have some guests tonight, most of whom are known. We also have some scouts working on their government badge, which is cool, so they may ask questions at some point. And with that, we'll call the meeting to order. Our city clerk has taken the roll by visual. We have all city council members and the mayor present. We also have Lori Lucas, staff support, and city administrator Michael Graham, and whatever your official title is, projects manager, Pat Hughes is with us as well. We'll get to the agenda, and you'll see that on the agenda that you were all anticipating. 3A was going to be the water reclaimed facility timeline and next steps. Chad Bedlington cannot be with us this evening, so we're going to have to move that to the next scheduled meeting.
Is there any way that Pat can talk to us about it?
He's not prepared to do so.
Oh, okay.
And so, we'll have Michael lead us in this discussion, is that correct, about council performance measures and community survey discussion?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. And so, one of the things that we've talked about with the finance committee was looking at two things that are just important as we improve our processes, not only our budgeting process, but just our tracking, our reporting processes, and our communications processes. How do we share information? How do we give information back? And two things that we wanted to look at were performance metrics and doing a community survey. This all rolls up into a project that Councilmember Carmody and the Finance Committee has undertaken to actually do a biennial budget that spells this out more concretely now that we've transitioned to a biennial budget. Councilmember Carmody, do you want to give a little more background and talk about some of the performance metrics that you looked at and identified as a draft, and then we can open it up and see if others have any other ideas, thoughts, feedback, and I can just take notes.
Sure. Well, we just kind of brainstormed when we were talking about this this budget calendar idea, and so we took some ideas that Tad had brought up, and that I know that he's been concerned with. For example, like, were project deadlines met? Because when you budget for something, you say this needs to get done within this many of days, and if it goes over, then you start paying overage fees and stuff like that. So, were project deadlines met? Did they remain within budget? Did they meet or exceed the city needs, like in accordance with the comprehensive plan? Because everything goes back to the comprehensive plan. That's our driving document. So is this thing that we just did, is it in accordance with the comprehensive plan? And if it wasn't, then maybe we should look at changing it up next time. So these are just some of the metrics that we were thinking we should really look at, when we're doing this this retreat, this biennial retreat. Like, how did the budget process work this last time, and did our projects go well, and did they meet these criteria? And if not, we need to take a look at our process again. So.
And one of the first steps is, just right now, see if there's any burning questions that you have that you would see asking or needing or being helpful to inform your constituents on a routine basis. So kind of an open question, no pressure to answer it now, but that's really what we wanted to prime the pump for this conversation. There literally is a whole, I geek out on this stuff. I mean, there is a book on municipal benchmarks, so we can overthink this. I really like the three that the Finance Committee came up with. I mean, it's just a good, simple start. The other thing to think about is how would you want this information presented? If you remember when I came here, I had that, the staff called it the Gantt chart from hell, but it was basically every project lined out with the simple stoplight. Are we on track, off track? And really, I got positive feedback from Councilmember Carmody and Stillwell. They liked it. I don't know how the others feel, but that could be a way to incorporate these metrics by bringing that system back or coming up with something else. First thing is to establish what those metrics are. We'll report on them on a regular cadence. And then the next thing is, how would we display these, not only so it's useful for you as a decision-making tool, but then also to put them on the web and social media so that the public is involved. So anything beyond what she just read off, any other ideas or feedback that you have?
I think those are a great start. I think after we do this once or twice, we'll actually fine tune those, because those are very broad brush strokes. So I think that we'll definitely refine that. I believe that the chart you had, I loved that chart because we could prioritize, see where we were, adjust, and I could visually, maybe it's just me, but I could visually look at that chart as big as it was, and I knew exactly where we were and what it was going for, what we were trying to accomplish with it, and we can talk about it with these actual measures on it.
I love
like
that it was color coordinated by department too.
That was the
That
best
was
part.
really, really handy.
Yeah.
Anything else? Other thoughts, feedback? If not, and you'll hear more about this at the next meeting. But we're working to take that concept that was drafted up, and we'll put it as a resolution for first reading and second reading for you actually to consider and take action on going forward. And you'll see how all of this fits together in this concept that the Councilmember and the Finance Committee put together. So anyway, if it's starting to sound like a good idea, you'll see how all the pieces fit together. Which that leads us to the second idea, which was this concept of doing a community survey and trying to seek input from the public so that it could help inform your role as representatives of the public.
Sure. So in this one, we thought, really, we act as representatives. We represent the citizens, but a lot of times we don't get a lot of feedback from the citizens. And so we thought, why not send out surveys. And, we kind of tossed around the idea of several different ways of sending out surveys, paper surveys with the water bills, Facebook surveys, Survey Monkey, but, there's a lot of different ways to do this. And what we really were looking for were, what's important to the people? Do they really want more public safety? Do they want more public works? Are they really, like, are parks a big deal to people? Are, police a big deal? Are potholes a big deal? Where do they want to put these discretionary funds? And it's just a good way to get sort of a guideline from the people, because that's who we represent. And, maybe we could send out one survey and just kind of really get a big, broad view, like, yeah, we want to spend more money on public works, or, and then the second one, dial it down. Well, what part of public works? Are you, interested in potholes or parks? And just kind of get more feedback from the people, because I think that's one of the things that the internet allows us to do this. It's an amazing tool, and we can get instant feedback from people. I think one of the problems that we'd be facing is determining whether or not somebody's a citizen. That's a big deal, because these are the people that are paying our taxes. And obviously input from people that aren't citizens is just as valuable, because they spend money here, they work here, they play here. But how do you weigh that input from people? So there's some tweaking that's gonna have to be done to this, and like how we actually make this survey, but I think it's a good idea.
And the framework, again, this all makes sense a little bit more when you look at the resolution when it comes out. But 1 year, you would set the parameters for what does that survey look like? What do you really want to know that year? And then that would help inform the biennial budget process. And then in the other years, you would look at, okay, now that we've adopted the biennial budget, what are the metrics that we really care about now, whatever's happening in the community, that will help us, A, understand and make decisions, and B, report back to the constituents. So what would be helpful now would be to get a sense of all of you of what is most important, because you can go from a free Survey Monkey mechanism, right, or Facebook, where anyone from Arkansas to Toledo can be phoning in, and you have no idea if they are a resident of this community or not. So you can get information, but it may not be that accurate. There's also the other end of the spectrum, where you can pay a lot of money, which a lot of larger cities do, and we're talking to the tune of $20,000, and you can get, very precise samplings, statistically accurate samplings of folks, and we're talking a 100-page survey. And so my hunch would be that you don't want to be on either end of those spectrums. And so if you could kind of share with me what your interests are in this, that'll help at least give me something to come back to with you all. And just so you know, I have, before we open up for questions, Andrew has put together at least a slate of what resources are that are out there of the gamut, so you can take it home. I'll email it out to you as well. It has links so you can look at it and go, yeah, that feels right. And so we just wanted to start the conversation tonight with some of those pros and cons, and so I'll hand this out. Councilmember DePino.
So I would suggest two things that kind of meld those together. One would be for the paper route to all our current addresses for utilities, and being that some don't do utilities, they also have an email for electronic version. And so we can send a code, either SurveyMonkey or Doodle Poll or whatever internet poll that's free that you want to use, and you can send a secure code to just that email. So it's not to anybody in the whole wide world, it's set to everyone that's within the Yelm area for water limits, if they have a service with Yelm and they choose electronically. And I'm not sure if all the paper ones have that as well. If they do dual, they have electronic and email address as well. But for those that we do have, we should be able to send that off to them at very little cost to taxpayers.
And I'd be lying if I said, yes, for sure, we have an email and everything, but throw these ideas out, and what I can do is I can go research them and figure out, yeah, what's more viable or what's less viable. And then while we're waiting for, other ideas like that one, I'll hand this out, and then I'll email it out as well, and we'll just put it out at the next meeting as a conversation to revisit, to see if there was something that you're gravitating or not, that, why reinvent the wheel? If we can find something that looks like what Councilmember DePino just laid out, or one of these other mechanisms resonate with you, let us know.
Just for information, is I kind of work in the survey business now, is you get about a 2% response on surveys that are sent through mail or email. A 2% response. That's really low, and that's probably what we're gonna get looking at this. We'll get about a 2% response rate. There's other ways we can adjust it where that response rate will go up, but if you're not directly in contact with those people, if you're going through mail or email, it's gonna be about a 2% response rate. Just be aware of that.
Michael, what about if we just did a general marketing blitz? Like if you want to talk to your city, go to the city website, and then anything we want to know or any input anybody has, whether it's a Survey Monkey on there, people would know to go there. But the marketing is getting them to the website. Because I don't think most people know it's there or how to use it, or they just wouldn't bother. But if you make it a thing that if they want to talk to us, that's where they go.
So almost, let me just see if I can say it a different way just to make sure I'm tracking. So we push out, hey, we've got a new website, we've got social media, and here's how you contact your council members, your mayors, and grab information.
Anything.
So at least that way they know it's available and it's kind of on them to engage and share. So whether we do a survey or not, it's just.
What's your most effective method in reaching out during?
Incentive. There has to be an incentive. And I mean, it's hard to do because we're a city, we can't gift funds,
Sure.
obviously, but like, we do an incentive for amount of time the survey takes, anywhere from $50 to $100, but we can't do that as a city.
Right, no,
But that's how it is, and it's still, even when we do that, the rate jumps to
You
20.
can just give out pens.
Yeah, we do that. But I mean, it only jumps to
Email
20
pens.
at that point,
Well,
like
what the-
20% is all you get out of that.
At the top, like the homelessness task force, we had a physical meeting. But if you put out a blast, like if you could make it to the meeting, we want your opinion, put it here. For hot topics that people are fired up about, they'll probably.
I think we would definitely want to steer them to a survey, because we want to ask really specific questions. We don't want like a general opinion. We want to say, look, how do you guys want to, spend these discretionary funds? Obviously, we can't take money away from the water or the sewer, but yes, sending them to a very specific site, I think, definitely. Just asking a really open-ended question, I don't know how, that's going to be really hard.
But if people knew anything they wanted to say, we want to
You
know.
could put that in like an other, like you have any other suggestions or whatever.
You can make an adaptive survey that if they click a button, it opens up a block where they can type. You can
Right.
easily do that, and you can do something where they have a respondent. I mean, it's easy to program it. That's not the hard part. The hard part is getting people to take it. Like, I could program a survey for you, and it would be
Yeah.
fine, but getting people to take it's the hard part. So you have to figure out a way to do that.
Cody, you're the genius.
Yeah.
Help us.
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly go, like, my thought process is what the census people do is they go door to door. Go door to door and have 2 to 3 questions, and if they want to know more, then direct them, here's a website you can go to. So here's 3 questions, this, what do you care about? That gives us a metric of those 3 to 4 questions of what they want, and they go, if you would like to give more input, here is the website. Go ahead and fill out that survey online, here's a respondent code for you. And it has a code that'll just for that person, so even if they share it, only one person can answer that survey.
So there is one of the examples in there that you made, flash vote, and they allow you to ask maybe 4 to 5 questions a month. And it would, kind of like Councilmember Carmody was saying, it would kind of stair-stepping down, okay, what's your biggest priority? Transportation, parks, police. Okay, everyone came back and said police. Okay, what about police? You could gradually walk through that process. At the same time, you could ask a couple of questions a month, like you're saying, and then direct them someplace else for more information. And the neat thing about that tool particularly is I can't remember the cost, but it's less expensive than the significant expensive one, 20 to 30,000. But it's actually, they have a geofence, so you can actually determine who is responding as a resident inside the city and outside the city. It allows input from everyone, but at least it gives you that data point of, wow, here's something that people outside of the city really care about, and here's something that people inside the city care about. So that may be something to
That's really interesting. And so on flash vote, could you, like, say if you have, 6 people in a household, can all 6 members come in and do a survey, or would we just have one per household? Per account, per sewer account, per water account?
And
Well,
that
what do
would
you
be the
guys
question,
think?
As you guys narrow the
Yeah.
scope, I would bring the flash vote people in there, the other surveys in, so that you guys can interview them and ask those kind of questions.
So that's a more narrow question then?
I'll email this out and give you time to click through some of the links and consider ideas. And once we have those, you know, we can sit there and go kind of a pro con of how costly would it be to implement that, how timely would it be, how accurate would it be from our perspective, and then, you know, whatever you all land on, we can work with the finance committee to propose a budget amendment and put this in the budget so there's a line item and or whatever it is you guys land. Again, kind of going back to, this would be part of that new biannual process where you're looking at what are the questions that we want to ask, what are the things we really want to survey. We would establish that mechanism, and we would use that information to drive the budget process, use the performance metric, you know, essentially assure accountability and transparency. Any questions for me? Other than that, I'll just look to receive input from you and we'll roll it up and follow up in a future meeting. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. We have with us Cecilia Jenkins from our Yelm Parks Advisory Committee. She has some things that the Parks Committee has been talking about, and they'd like to run them past us for consideration. Again, we don't make decisions on these tonight, but be a good discussion about why they would like to do these things and what y'all think about it.
Our last meeting, Parks Committee was very, they had ideas.
Good.
And then I get to come and share them with you. Okay, one thing they wanted to do, they talked about trying to find ways to make the community center more affordable for a smaller group, like, oh, so you want to have a birthday party or you want to, you know, a shorter time frame. They would like the city council to consider charging, placing a $25 fee for use of the pavilion at the city park for specific times, and then divide it where they can register online. Divide it, if you're signing up, you could use it from 9 in the morning till 1, or from 1 to 5, or 5 to dusk. And people would complete the online reservation and pay the city through the website. And they just thought that that would generate a permit. When they fill it in on the website, they get, you know, have it formed. And that would be, they posted at the, who's rented it at which time, be posted at the pavilion. And they've thought that they were hoping that it would be effective January 1st, 2020. They just want it yet.
Also, do we currently charge for rental of the pavilion in the city park?
Yes, but it's a,
No.
you completely waived it?
We haven't charged, excuse me, but we haven't charged for the pavilion in the middle of City Park for as long as I've been here. We charge for the community center. So this would be a new idea to help support. It's so popular now that many people are coming in. It's a first come, first serve, and they're having to combine groups under the pavilion because they're both there at the same time. This would give us a permitting process that people, and the $25 fee is very affordable, but it gives us cover for staff time and the posting of the permit so that people would know when they have use of the pavilion. Is that
Yes.
on track?
What the fees that have transpired have been through donations. And so they weren't charged. But right now you could have 3 people show up with their families for the same spot for a birthday party or something. And there's no way to enforce it or to keep people from being upset or angry. And that we just, committee really had strong feelings on it. They thought it would smooth it out. And it should be broken up into smaller, 3 times a day. And so that was.
So they're going to have some questions if you want to just call on them as they.
So the Rack and Lacey, we've reserved it several times. You reserve a pavilion space. They come out, the city comes out and puts this flyer in there that says what the time is for the day, so you've locked it in. And I think it was only $10 just for an online fee or something that you paid, and it was super small. But it's just the fact that I knew I could go there and it was reserved. I didn't have to show up 2 hours early to set it up. I think the idea, especially how popular it is now that the splash pad's there, that for next summer having something like that would be a really good idea, so people can reserve their space.
Yeah, I would agree with the permitting process, so you know who has it for that time. But $25 is pretty steep for me. I would be more in just for basic permitting, I mean, I wouldn't want it to cost anything. I don't think we should be charging anything. But if you do decide, I couldn't support anything like over $5 or anything like that.
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be small because the city guy has to go out there and just put the thing in there and he's done. So however long that takes of his work to drop the sign off in there on his rounds.
I'd go 10. Go 10, because you still have to, you gotta fill out, you gotta have Dana filling out all of that paperwork, that's extra paperwork for her, it's extra paperwork for the parks guy to go out there. I'd go 10.
I think we should at least go 20, just so we don't have to have this conversation again next year.
One thing to remember is that they leave garbage or they might leave things that your grounds people have to clean up.
Valid point.
They have to anyway.
And a pen.
I work with the public a lot, but they don't always, some are gonna use a pen and others might do a little piggy.
Sure, but people pay taxes in the city of Yelm, and some people expect their tax to go towards maintenance of park grounds and whatnot too.
I mean, you don't have to be a resident to reserve the space. You could be, living in Lake Lawrence and still rent the pavilion. You don't pay taxes in the city of Yelm.
I'm not making any decisions, we're just talking about it.
Yeah, but you'd still pay sales tax if you live out Lake Lawrence, you shop here. So, I mean.
So if I could digest this down, what I'm hearing people are saying, they're very supportive of the concept of permitting usage of the pavilion. The fee structure would be something we continue to discuss. We have to change our ordinance a little bit to allow that. But I think that's been well received by the council. Season will work on formalizing the permitting process for the pavilion, and then we'll come back to something for you to acknowledge as an official body.
Do we already have a reserving process for like Longmire, the park, for people using the fields?
Yeah, so they do that themselves, though. Interestingly, they the teams that come in and use those fields for their tournament, they all work together and they set their own schedule in conjunction with Dana, who helps them with that. But otherwise, we don't have a reservation for like the playground equipment or picnic tables because it's not really quite the same as that covered pavilion in City Park.
Yeah, and I was thinking if we had something for the fields, we could just combine it or maybe make it so that way they have a system.
So no, we don't
sign
do
up.
it with that. They're doing that
Okay.
amongst
There's
themselves.
never been an issue? That seems like there's always.
They do it amongst themselves,
Okay.
so if they have issues,
They just deal with it.
They
They're
deal with
fighting
it.
on the field.
If it's that busy, I think sign up is fine during the busy times, but I like the idea of forgetting about permits and forgetting about fees.
well, we've heard both ways. I mean, the
Well, I think that's what you came in telling us, that it's been a little bit contentious due to the issue of more.
Well, just because who gets the fee, so you're the first group there, but maybe you weren't the first group that asked if you could do it. Or maybe you didn't ask at all.
I want to give an example. It's just a couple of weeks ago, the Quad City Flames, that basketball group, semi-pro basketball group, boy, they're tall. Came down and they had a special little get to know the community event there. But at the same time, a Filipino dance group had decided that they wanted to have their event under the same pavilion. And it turned out to be awesome.
I was gonna say, that sounds pretty good.
They were playing their music and dancing, and they both had barbecues going, and so they all got to make new friends and dance. However, you could have, in that same situation, very conflicting, it could be the prayer group and the heavy metal rock. It might not go so well. So as we have become more successful and more popular as a destination, and I predict in the best of Nisqually that Yelm City Park wins the best destination park. We probably do need to go to something like this, and I'm feeling that the council's supportive of that. So what you'll see next is codification of that with room for you to decide on what the fees would be, if any, at a future date. Fair enough? Cease, you got another thing on there.
Yes,
This is even easier.
yeah, well, I don't know, you guys are sort of a wild bunch.
This is pretty mild for us.
It's all Cody.
Yeah. I got too much energy.
Person that worked for school boards for 42 years, so.
She knows.
I know, okay, they really, thought that we should clarify the use of the parks and all the parks and have the signage say that they're open from dawn to dusk. Because during the year, it gets dark earlier at different times. And we heard the stories from other communities about some of the things that happen. And I know we've had do things. But after dark, so if it just says dawn to dusk, no matter whether it's August or January, it's dusk is dusk, and then the police can ask people to leave the park. That's just, it just that we park committees members get called and want to know why they can't stay later, and that doesn't mean if you have a city authorized dance or some big activity that would have the waiver and approval from the council and the mayor's office to be there later. But for just general, if it said dawn to dusk, that makes it easy to enforce.
I think a lot of cities already have that in place for parks where it's dawn to dusk. And yeah, no issue.
Ours just has, hours, and that makes it harder to supervise and police.
Yep, it helps with the public works. They can lock down the bathrooms at dusk, put them on the automatic timer. We're still struggling with that, but those can be automated to go with those extending and decreasing hours of dawn to dusk pretty easily as well. And then again, Cisa's point that if somebody's putting in a request for a special use permit, like parade days or jazz in the park, which goes into the evening hours, then the council approves those, and should be nice, because right now several of our parks have conflicting things. One says a certain time and the other says dawn to dusk, so this would just make it
We just wanted it clean so all the parks are the same. Makes it easier for the police force too, that try to take care of our visitors.
What's the definition of dusk? Is it half an hour before sunset? Is it half an hour after sunset? Or is it sunset?
when the street lights come on, according to my mom.
Dusky right now.
But that's a good point.
I mean, I would consider this to be sort of semi-dusk right now, but I wouldn't have a problem with playing in the park for another hour or so. I mean, it really depends on
How about dawn to dark?
in the dark, or why not sunrise to sunset?
I like the sunset because it's a
Sunset set a specific time.
I think the only issue with doing sunset is we have to program it every single day, because sunset changes literally minutes every day, right?
That's okay.
I mean, if you could do that, that's something you could program, so tomorrow it closes at 6:23, then 6:21, then 6:20, then 6.
But it is specific.
Yeah, I mean, it's super specific.
But
That's
you don't
what
have to program it. I mean, if they're programming the lockdowns at the doors, do it once a month, it's only gonna change
Ooh,
half an hour.
How about park is open during daylight hours? That's just as bad as dusk because it
Yeah.
determines when it's not daylight anymore. Okay.
Dusk
I
is
don't
used
know.
all
I mean,
over.
I'm just thinking about there's gonna be people
I'm gonna Google
that are gonna argue,
It's good for the Parks Committee to consider that and come back with us with a solution.
Why doesn't the Parks Committee figure that out? Yeah.
You're up for re-election.
Well, isn't your recommendation dawn to dusk though, after having
The
that
committee,
discussion?
Yes, I have a very diverse committee. And that's good. They represent different viewpoints, different ideas, but they all came chomping down on that. They beat it up for about 45 minutes and they decided dawn to dusk was the cleanest.
So there's their recommendation, and we can beat this up too, or we could just sort of agree to.
If it becomes a problem later on, then we can address it then, right?
So once again, you will see this come through as probably as part of the consent calendar because it doesn't require a lot of parts. Okay, good stuff. While you're here, anything else?
Twilight between sunset.
Well, I will, invite you guys in. We're just getting ready to kick off Christmas in the park, and really the big meeting that we have is on Monday, November 4th at 6 o'clock. We're asking to have it over here, but it may be down at Public Works. Haven't heard that part yet. But if you're interested in being one of that volunteer team, I see our mayor writing.
Oh, you know.
You are a volunteer. I already got you on the agenda.
I know you do. Happy to do it.
Anyway, we've been doing Christmas in the park. Everything's free. No one's allowed to make money. And it has worked. Get calls from other communities. How do we do that? How do you feed them free? How do you do it? But see, we have a restaurant that likes us.
Yeah.
And he stepped out. He's hiding. So Anyway, we have a lot of people that donate and help. All the businesses all the way around the park, they're all giving free things. Community groups and churches. It works, and nobody can sell anything. And believe me, I get lots of calls that would love to pay for a booth and stuff. And that's the one day a year. I always tell them I'm one of the biggest fundraisers in anybody that time of year, that day. So anyway, you're all welcome to be part of that if you'd like. And besides that, I appreciate your support of the parks, and we're a growing community. And I spent current, so I don't have to worry about the budget and everything all the time like you guys do online, but I spent 2 weeks every day going down to the park. Morning, I did the playground part, but just sat there listening to what the people were saying. I wanted to know. And then I went to the water afternoon. People love the park, and they were so heavy, and all the things we worried about parent supervision or leaving kids and something happening. There were so many parents and grandparents down there that came for the day. They brought their umbrellas, and there were chairs, and it was, I was impressed with the things they said. If there was a way to communicate, I couldn't believe them calling the beautiful park and the beautiful this, and how the city council and the mayor and how they've taken care of it and did this for the public. It was really, I left there so pumped up every day. I had to go find out for myself.
One other thing, I was chatting with a constituent the other day who was looking to volunteer more in the city, which I'll give him your contact regarding Christensen Park volunteering. But also, he mentioned wanting to paint Cochrane Park, the dock over there. I don't know if, he said he'd provide the paint and everything, and he wanted to do that, though. I don't know what the process is.
The best process for that would be to go to Public Works, and if they want needed for some reason, park committee to consider it and approve it, but they would need to bring a step in there talking about color themes, and not everybody, people have different ideas. You know, on Main Street, one time we had a beautiful building painted bright red, and everybody griped about it for about 3 years, but it wasn't red anymore. So I think it would need to look. Am I right?
I'll work with Michael.
Yeah, or just give Michael the
I
information.
know.
Actually, that park's due for this big renovation, including the dock. So if we painted it right now, it wouldn't last very long.
Well, and we were just talking, you guys may remember one of our projects is to pull out all of the muck and the sludge in the EQ basin. We also are doubling and we're gonna pull out all the muck and the sludge and all the liners in Cochrane Park. That was something that was approved as one of the projects, and so we're waiting until the end of the summer season to do that. And so when the liners and the muck come out, the dock will come out as well, and so there will be a new dock.
Oh, wow, okay, cool.
That'll be part of the project.
But still, we'd love to have those contacts in case something like that comes up and we need a little volunteer group and they can come in and do that for us.
Well,
Wonderful.
City Park was all painted years ago. That was all volunteer effort.
Yeah.
There were a whole group of us that had paintbrushes. People in charge knew what we were doing. They were contractors, but the rest of us.
Maybe they could put the finishing touches on the dock when we reinstall it.
Yeah,
We
him and
did-
his son go.
We did that for community service one year, Windermere did.
Yeah, no, we've had
Every
lots
building out there.
Yeah, we've had lots of volunteers that have painted for us. It's important that it be pre-approved and everything, that the public works or oversee and see a surprise.
We might even have a scout group that would be interested in volunteering for some of these.
Well, the ones that are working toward the youth projects need that. They call me all the
They
time
do?
looking for.
They do.
Taking notes, too.
Are you gonna be an eagle that doesn't like to paint?
Oh, he's gonna be an eagle.
Cease, thank you so much, and please pass along to the other Parks Committee members how much we appreciate what they do. As having been on the Parks Committee years ago, knowing that each of them adopts one of the parks and walks them and makes sure they're doing okay and brings it back and makes comments to us. Those eyes and ears, in your case, listening to the constituents who,
Just listening to them, it was
and
amazing.
passing that on to the council so they can hear that, very important.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was everything that I was thinking I was going to hear. I just had one person, a man, because he thought it was funny and he knew me, and a lot of the others didn't know what I was doing.
Hey Cecilia, I have one quick question. I actually was talking to somebody and I was down at Longmire Park the other day. You know the back side of Longmire Park that has the drainage ponds and and the volleyball court there? Somebody asked me why they couldn't just fence that part off with the little woods there and make that part a dog park. That way we wouldn't have to create a whole brand new dog park. It's already been fenced, you know, it's partly fenced, and then just put some,
That worked.
you know. And that would
Yeah,
That
I
would
just
be
took
really
a note.
cool.
Yeah, that's actually.
you could so.
We have
No
also,
decisions, no decisions.
well, but
think about it.
It's just like with Cochrane Park, with upcoming projects with the 510 completion. We're working with DOT, the sidewalk will be on that side of the 510, and we're asking them to make connections to Longmire Park and other pedestrian pathways. Might be a good time to include that in the discussions. He's nodding sagely.
Actually, that's an idea that's around.
Good idea.
Do you guys know if the volleyball court is used a lot? These are
Yeah,
ones.
for summer, for beach volleyball. One too, it's fun.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody use it.
That was it. That's the only time I've seen it used when I used it.
But that would be a fantastic
Yeah.
place for a dog park.
All right, well, something for, Pat can add that to his list of discussion items with DOT, and you might see it again. But it would go back first to the
I was
Parks
going to
Committee.
say, don't skip.
Get
Get
us a
eyes
dog
on me,
park.
I saw you.
I'm a senior citizen, I'm not bashful. Well,
Bring
why
us the
they-
dog park.
No, you're right on, he's being naughty. This is unofficial. We have been asked about creating a dog park, as you guys know. They've asked, but no one has ever mentioned that section about a dog park. So that was at one time was mentioned, wanted to have it where they could do those remote airplane flying, you know, the little airplanes. That was what it was in the original, when we were designing and everything originally talked about, were the airplanes. But people want a dog park, so they've asked for it.
Yeah.
It's just so you gotta watch where you put it, because dogs are noisy. And that,
There's horses right there, right? On that backside of Longmire.
Yeah.
it's not as.
Gotta be good neighbors too. It's something for, Pat can put something together based on that concept and then run it by the Parks Committee and come up with some solutions. You also gotta be good neighbors, and there's health issues. Again, we've talked about this with why other municipalities kind of shy away from dog parks, but doesn't mean it's not doable. We just have to make sure we do it right and safely and legally.
Well, they have them in town, but they probably have learned a lot of things that they wish they had done different, which would, as a co-person, your position, I can fill you.
I've got some experience with that because the city that I came from in Michigan. Dog park.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
There's a whole app out there called Bring Fido. And if you're like traveling with your dog, you can say, I want to go to a city, you know, I'm going to Yakima. I need to know where all the dog parks are in Yakima. And so you go to those dog parks and people do it. It's crazy. They're like, yeah, you know, this is a great dog park. And I went to the Burger Shack next door. And
The water ponds there concern me a little bit because if algae or something is growing in those, you would know that. That is happening. That could make the animals sick, and then they'd probably sue the city for making their dog sick.
Not give 'em any ideas. But thank you for coming and sharing. That was a good presentation, Cecilia. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciated being asked.
Of course. Come again, anytime.
Oh, you're trying to get my money?
You look like you were heading for the door.
City's always trying to get that money.
Because it's got my keys, that's the only reason.
Walk carefully.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, very good. That completes the agenda items for the mayor's report, rather brief, and I don't have a 101 for you tonight because some other things came up that we had to attend to this week. I'm sure that breaks your heart. But I did want to mention, we had such a successful wellness day here in the city, and I hope that when we have it again, that the council members remember they're part of the family and they attend. Bring your families. Lots of vaccinations and just really good health information was presented by the different vendors that Karen Bennett brought to this fair, and brought the city family together again as like a family event. It was really well done. Big kudos to Karen, and it helps us get towards that goal of being a well city so that we can save real money on our insurance premiums. So that was cool. Speaking of fairs, Terry and I both were at the reality fair today at the high school. This is put on by the credit unions in the community. Washington State Employees Credit Union was the lead on this, and they've been doing it for a couple of years, where they come in with volunteers, and Terry Pablo says she had 40 volunteers sign up for this, so the community support was enormous. The kids come in, there were 50 of them, who didn't know this was coming. They come into the library, and there's all these tables set up, and they're given a sheet of paper that gives them their job that they just got getting out of college. And they might be anything from a barista to a flight engineer, and everywhere from $30,000 to $70,000, depending on which lucky draw they got. And then the taxes come out and all that, and it says, here's your take-home pay. And then they turn over the page, and here's some of the expenses that you can expect, including here's your checking account balance, here's your credit card balance you've amassed already, here's your student loans based on what your degree was, we expect this, and so forth. And then the fun begins. They get to go out to where all the volunteers are at different tables. Then one is adopt a puppy from the pound. Oh, I'm on my own now. I get to have my dog. And then they get their dog. And that only cost them $100 to get the dog. And then they go next door to where they get their apartment. And the property manager says, well, I'm sorry, but we don't have any apartments available for people with dogs. But I do have a house that you could buy for $1,800 a month. And they go, well, I don't have that. Well, you're going to have to take the dog back. I don't want to give up my dog. And so these conversations got real personal real quick with these folks. They had to buy a car or get a bus pass. They had to do a lot of these things. And then my favorite part was Michael Malik, was our financial guy here in the city, also volunteered. Well, we volunteered to go over, and he had one of the best tables. He had a bunch of playing cards in front of him, great big old playing cards called the Game of Life, or Life Happens. And so they're doing really well on their deal, and they come over and they pick up a card, and it might be like, your grandma just sent you $100. You're like, yes, put that in the positive, or your transmission just went out. Welcome to life. And then they could go to a financial advisor who could help them understand their loans. They could come over to the table that I was at, offered them part-time employment. And we would try to match up the part-time employment opportunities to their profession that they already had. And, some of them had minds blown or at least opened. And at the end of it, they had financial advisors from the credit unions helping them then tally it up. And it was really fun to see that they'd go over there, and then they'd come running back to the guy next to me who was selling the cars. So what else you got? Something a little cheaper than the Caddy that I just... And the cell phones, every single one of the kids, not everyone, the group in the afternoon was a little bit more financially savvy. In the morning group, every one of the kids got the highest end phone and phone plan that they could, because that's kind of like their priorities. So that was a really fun thing, and they're going to try to do it every quarter. It's sort of an ambitious goal, but they'll look for more volunteers, hint, hint, from the community to help them make it go. I'd highly recommend it as a...
Can they open it up for adults as well?
Well, we already had those classes here, and we will offer them again where people can come in and do Checkbook 101. So yeah, it's a need.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I wanted to mention this because it has the impact to our community. Friday night, I was able to attend the Boys and Girls Club Gala annual fundraiser up at St. Martin's University, and was able to go up and thank the biggest donors to that, again, for their commitment to the program, particularly our new program here in Yelm. Yelm got a couple of really big shout outs from Chris Woods and others And it was an amazing thing to see the support at the county-wide level. So they raised $549,000 Friday night for Boys and Girls Clubs programs. A lot of that is coming our way, and they appreciate us. Chris Woods got up. He's the director of Boys and Girls Clubs of South Sound. And he said, of all the communities he's worked with, the outpouring of generosity and support from the Yelm community, general Yelm community, with a very light ask, was more than he's ever seen in any other community. We still got that going on here. Very, very cool to be a part of it. My hands are still a little numb from sitting on them during the light. And then finally, I can't read my own note. It's got to be in here someplace. Hold on a second. It's really important. Yes, that says farmers right there, farmers market. Don't forget that our farmers market goes through the end of October. The number of vendors has dwindled a little bit, but it's only because people think it's closed, because at the end of summer. When we set that up, originally, we extended the hours so that the farmers could come in with their late season products, so the pumpkins and corns and so forth. And there's still some really great vendors there, and it's worth a stop by every Saturday from 10 to 2, if you get a chance. And that's all I got. So any other updates from staff? We'll go over to Councilmember Curry then.
Southeast Thurston Fire Authority is going to send a proposal to Lori, I believe, be on our next council agenda meeting to approve, go out for funds for a bond for the Lawrence Lake Fire Building.
This would be a request for a resolution of support from the council?
From the council.
Not that it would cost us anything, it's just supporting the measure, like we did the school bond.
And what meeting would that be?
I think for the next council meeting is what I was told, but have you received anything yet?
So at the very earliest, it could go on the meeting for the 22nd then.
Okay.
Our schedule.
All right.
She'll have to get that into Lori first. Anything else, CJ?
No, that's it.
I just passed down to all the city council members a policy proposal to the General Government Committee, asking them to send over to the Planning Commission, asking them to look at our parking requirements again, because they're a little outdated. They don't really match with our comprehensive plan, and frankly, they're really, really expensive for builders to comply with. I mean, to pave, a couple hundred square feet is thousands and thousands of dollars, and then they get taxed on that land that they own, but they're really not making any money off of that land. So I would propose that, I propose that the Planning Commission re-examine all of these regulations and then come back to City Council with a recommendation.
Very timely. I'm hearing that a lot from the builders that say times they are changing, and the requirements that we have now for 2 parking spaces per unit is probably overkill when the parking lots are usually empty. So but it takes a big change.
Yeah. Go drive by the Tustin Apartments, and
they're full, but the parking lot is.
The parking lots are empty.
Comment,
Quick question on, or I guess comment on that. I was under the impression that as far as taxing on something like that, that wasn't considered a permanent structure as like concrete is.
Well, but aren't they taxed on the actual land that they own, like per acre?
Well, sure, they're taxed on their land for sure, but I don't think that there is an additional.
Well, if you were going to buy if you're going to build a restaurant, say, and then you didn't have to buy the entire lot, or an extra lot just for a parking lot. You just put your restaurant on there. You didn't have to buy the place next door to put your parking lot.
I understand. I understand where you're coming from.
2 parts to it, and this is definitely something Tammy's going to have to work on at length. We've talked about it before, years ago on the Planning Commission, but with like a restaurant or a business, there's a national code. It's a book, literally, and it says if you're going to open up an Arby's, This is the amount of traffic you can expect in and out of that. Here's the egress that you'll need onto the highway. If you're going to open up a hardware store, this is the number of parking spaces you would need. In fact, it was one reason why one of the restaurants didn't come to Yelm years ago is because they didn't, the parking that was available was too far away from the front door of their building, and they didn't think customers would walk that far to go into their restaurant, so they decided to pull their project. But these are, what happens on the other side, if you don't have enough parking spaces, then people complain that they don't have enough parking.
But like, I mean, you know, I would rather leave it up to the builder. You know, if they think parking's a priority for them, then they can put it in, but I don't, you know.
It is a much larger discussion than
Of course.
that, but certainly this is a great way to start the discussion. Thank you for submitting that. That it, Molly? Cody?
We had a general government committee meeting a few minutes ago. We now have parking requirements that just got submitted. We had the mailbox program got presented to us, so we're expecting, you know, we've reviewed it and we'll send it to the rightful place where it needs to go. It's, you know, everything's done like it's supposed to, so we will send it off to where it needs to go. It looks good to go from our standpoint. We don't make decisions, we just send it to where it needs to be, and that's what we're doing by just ensuring that everything was filled out, and it was. So expect that soon. And besides that, nothing to report.
I have nothing to report.
Make something up.
Fresh out ideas.
Gotcha.
I've got a lot of things to talk about, but I'm gonna go ahead and reserve at this point and pass back the remainder of my time.
I see what you did there. Joe?
The only thing, I was happy that the General Government Committee took that upon themselves to look at and review it. I sent it to not only them, but to the rest of the council, city administrator and the mayor for their information, and hopefully they'll see it eventually, but very, very excited about it. I think it's a great program that CTAC did and Tequila also adopted. If we adopted it, we'd be the third city. And for those watching, it's to create a secure mailbox program where the city would buy a wholesale cost or buy in bulk to reduce that cost for $109. Normally they charge about $150, and they're very secure individual mailboxes. City Council member Kwan from CTAC said that of all the mailboxes that they've implemented, he hasn't heard one that has been broken into since they've installed it. For secure mailbox that the city installed or they installed themselves, as they haven't had any issues with mail theft anymore. So I think it would greatly reduce mail theft, increase public safety, and get our police officers doing other stuff. Yeah. That's it.
I sent an email about this, but I'm not sure if I was clear about it. I think it was as a result of your task force meeting, the homelessness.
See my response.
What did you say? What was the response?
I said, we don't have the names of individual homeless people.
Oh.
And if this individual wants to donate specifically towards students, I don't know that the school would be allowed to give out student names, considering that they're minors.
Yeah, just to back up,
Yeah.
one of our clients at Windermere watched the live stream of the public meeting and was so moved that she brought a $500 check to our property management lady at Windermere and said, I want to give this to help some of these homeless people, especially the kids that go to school and don't have what they need. So I'm just trying to throw it out there to see if there's a way that we could reach any of these people in need in any kind of significant way.
The school has programs that they can channel that money through. So does Together, which works directly with the kids who are at the most risk.
Our kids.
Our kids,
Right here.
Yelm,
they're in
Yelm
Yelm.
school kids. And so does, for example, the Yelm Rotary, who picks up the feeding program through the summer that the Backpacks for Homeless Backpacks program. So we can talk about that later. I can give you a number of opportunities for them to support.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice.
Emmanuel Lutheran Church also does a free dinner on Tuesdays for the homeless and less.
We can't just give it to one person. That's not what it was. So we'll get more details.
It's hard to find one family and then pick,
Yeah.
some of the Christmas programs do that, but we recommend that people give to programs that already have those connections, and then we try to get more people taken care of.
Or maybe if there's any way we can do that for general people that really do want to help our specific community, that would be really.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? I did, don't say it.
We don't have it for this study
I know,
session.
I just wanted to let you know. So two things that I forgot. One is on the 9th coming up.
Two things. You forgot two things?
Yeah, I didn't turn the page.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
On the 9th, the College and Career Fair is being held down at the high school, and it's, even if you're not volunteering at it, it is a really cool thing to go to and just see what the kids are being presented with as college and career opportunities out there. It's at 5 o'clock at the high school. And then tag You're It, Tracy, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to be going to and I know you're all jealous of this, I get to go to the Association of Government Risk Insurance Pools Conference. I fell asleep saying it.
It's in Palm Springs, though.
No, I wish. It's in Cleveland. Now, I've not been to Cleveland, and I don't want to say anything bad about Cleveland, but it's not been high on my bucket list of things to go see. But I do say, this is all paid for by my participation as a board member of the Risk Management Services Agency, which provides our insurance coverage for the city. And it really is actually pretty an interesting conference that I've been to once already. So I'll be bringing back exciting things about risk management. And then, so, Tracy, you're it from the 4th through the 9th.
Something good.
Isn't that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Is that there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Aren't you the musician of the group?
I will look into that.
I thought so.
I'm in class from 7:30 till 5:30, and then I go home.
I'm sure it's up and late. It's music, rock and roll.
Thanks, DJ.
First in the division.
All right, we don't have an official ending, but is anything else good at the order? All right, go ahead and say it anyway.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, move to adjourn. Second, third, fourth.
We are done. Thank you, scouts and families, for coming along.
I thought the Browns had a losing record right now. No, they're in first. They're 2-1. Are they 2, 3 and 2? 3 and 2? They're in first. They're in first. That's all I know, which doesn't happen.
San Francisco was in first with their
No, in their division.
3-0 record.
In their division.
Yeah, over the planetary superiority with the San Francisco 49ers. Just ask a 49